any of you guys have questions related to that? Like, could you answer it?
No.
I don't know if it's correct.
Yeah, so,
But very good.
so I teach Asian American history, and I had to look it up because all my students ask the same thing about their family backgrounds. But what it all boils down to was that there was a Chinese Exclusion Act, 1882. It was a 10-year act, but every 10 years, Congress would extend it for another 10 years. And finally, 1902, they decided to, well, maybe we should just make it permanent. So in 1904, Chinese exclusion was permanent law, you know. And that meant that if you were a worker, you could not enter. If you were a merchant, there was a merchant loophole. You could enter as a merchant. If you were a student studying in the United States, you were allowed to enter. If you were a diplomat, you could enter. But if you were what the majority of the Chinese were, laborers, you could not settle in the United States. The doors were shut. And it was permanent law in 1902, and it was repealed in 1943 because of World War II. They needed soldiers, they needed Chinese immigrants to fight the war. China was the ally of the United States in World War II, so it was repealed in 1943. But still, people had I think you can say 80 to 90% of the Chinese that came over had the same problem with their names, you know, because of the Chinese exclusion. They would purchase the names of Chinese who had legal papers, very few, and they would pay money, and so a person who's a dong or a ong could enter as a chan. You know, you buy those papers. It was highly illegal back then, and if they caught you, you would be deported. That happened, but it was something that people had to do if they wanted to come over. The effects of Chinese exclusion was when the Chinese exclusion law went into effect, 1882. There was like 110,000 Chinese persons in the United States. By 1920, it dropped down to 60,000. So it did have a strong effect, like a 40% drop, you know. They would look everywhere for people who did not have the right ID cards. And if you did not have an ID card that said you were legally here in the United States, most people didn't because there was no ID system established that quickly. You had to find 2 white witnesses to back you up saying that you were here legally. So if you didn't have a white friend, you would be in there was lots of legal affidavits. I looked at my dad's records over property, and you know you have to have an affidavit for everything, you know, when you have a legal document transferred. I noticed there was a line in there under witnesses. It says white witness approves this affidavit. You can't have a Chinese person do that. Okay, so these are all the vestiges of Chinese exclusion. The other Asian groups were also had similar, Filipino, Japanese, you know, others. And so all this stuff started turning around after World War II. Okay? The last group to have their exclusion repealed was, I think, were Japanese and Koreans. You know, that was like 1952. Okay? So this history is important because it explains the, you know, why Chan and not Dong. So it clarified a lot of things for me. You know, I would say Google Chinese Exclusion Act, and you'll find a lot of stuff. There's a map here of the old residence you all have. On the back is a poem that I wrote that's kind of like a puzzle that goes into the family history. You can read it and make fun of it. It's my attempt. But there's a lot of stuff in there that I thought maybe it might question your brain. Not question your brain, but everybody's smart. Okay, but it means that it brings up a lot of questions.
I won't remember.
Okay.
You put it on YouTube.
YouTube. Yeah. But first we'll go over this map, okay? Let's give a hand for Julie for helping my dad draw this map. And then I took a really scribbly map and I asked my dad about it. And then I used ChatGPT and asked them to fix it.
That's my
Yeah, it cleaned it up.
Different.
But I had to go through many renditions. It didn't understand a lot of stuff.
I was like, that's,
kind
I
of,
think maybe my mom's super careful.
but you have to know how to work it.
That's my mom's AI.
Okay, so here is a map of essentially 2 units at 212 I Street. 212 I Street is the living quarters. Okay, it's an apartment flat, and 214 I Street is the the herb shop that Sai Chan, the grandfather or your great-great-grandfather ran. So on the right side, there were actually two families living in one unit, and one bedroom might have one bed, but you might have 3 kids sleeping sideways, you know, kind of like logs on the bed. And so on the right side, I think my dad put down that's a stairway to basement, 10 rooms. 10 rooms would be single bachelors living there. My dad said Uncle Sim lived down there too. And those were divided up rooms. The realtor was not Chinese, realtor was white. They had to pay rent and stuff. Because Chinese could not own land at that time. So it says stairway to basement room, 10 rooms, so it'd be 10 single men living there. They would have cooking facilities in the backyard. My dad thinks that some of the men may have smoked opium, you know, but they didn't go. The kids didn't go down there. And the way the rooms were set up was, let's say there were 10 rooms here, and the walls would only go up so far, and then after that it would be open. You know, so it's like it could be really noisy or smelly. You know, depending. You know. So there's 10 rooms downstairs that were rented out. And then on the upstairs, on the right side, there was a partitioned area for grandma. Her name's Liang Xi. Did you know why a lot of elder grandmas have the name Xi? That's not a real name. That's just like a marker. That means woman or something like that. You know. So it's Liang Xi. There was another grandma named Huan Xi. Okay, so you had mom, the girls, the bedroom, and then Paul, Bill, Ben in another bedroom, and then you have David, Betty, and Clarence's family in another bedroom. Okay. And then you had Aunt Nellie in another bedroom. Okay, so you have 2 families, and I guess you could say that when the Dongs came over, there were actually 3 brothers. any of you know Ellen? Yeah. So Ellen's family is from one of the grandfathers to our brothers. So off of that, there's a family tree in Chinese that in 1993 my dad went to China and he met this relative named Dong Pang Cheng, and he was doing the same thing on the other end. You know, he kind of took on the role of kind of like Bobby, you know, like figure out the family tree. He said everything's in Chinese, and he was really glad to meet my dad because he said, "Oh, I got to complete it." You know, my dad can complete the Chinatown Sacramento side, and Pang Cheng can take care of the China side. So from that, I saw on this chart that the three brothers who are grandparents to three different sets of families included Sai Chong, who's second from the right, Sai Chong. So that's the grandpa for this.
Which one?
Right here, Sai Chong. Yeah. So he's your, I guess for the little kids it'd be what, great grandpa. Yeah.
This is Harvey.
Yeah, Sai Chong. Yeah.
Mr. Grandpa.
Can you remember that? And then Sai Fun is Uncle David's father, and then Claire's Dell, Betty were related to Sai Fun. And Dennis, do you guys know Dennis? He's the grandson of Sai Fun.
See that baby? That's
And then Sai Yin is Uncle Eddie's father, and Uncle Eddie's daughter is Ellen. So there's three brothers, three sets of families, and the family tree starts like that.
That's how we call it second cousin.
Yeah, second cousins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never knew why.
All I know is Uncle Eddie. I didn't know exactly why he was related, but he always took us fishing and he taught us how to cuss. Whenever he got a stag, he said all kinds of SOB. Don't say that. Yeah. But he was a really great guy. And then my grandma, Lam Shi, I think during the summer, to take the pressure off of our parents, she offered to take us in, and we all slept in her place, right? You remember that? It felt like we were like in the army, because we all had to sleep in rolls and all this, and be quiet. And then when she fell asleep, we all ran around all over. Okay, so there's three sets. Okay. Okay, so in the poem, there's a little story there about how Grandma Lim, she went to China, and that year in China, there were two tragedies that impacted the family. One was Sai Chong died of a heart attack in Sacramento, and second was there was a daughter, Kim Jong, who died of illness on that trip in China. So when they came back to the United States, rather than report that Kim Jong no longer is alive, she reported that Kim Jong is still in China. So what she did was she sold for money Kim Jong's slot. So years later, there was a young woman that stopped by the family house, introduced herself as Kim Jong, used the same name, Donna.